You know what really gets me fired up? Peeking behind the curtain, really seeing how things actually work.
Yeah, me too. That backstage view.
Exactly. And lately, the whole digital world of legal commentary, well, it's been flashing some serious neon signs.
How so?
We're talking about why certain voices get so loud online, so persistent, especially around these big ongoing cases.
Right, cases that grab headlines.
Forget the surface level chat. We're diving headfirst into the motivations, maybe even the money swirling around these online legal takes.
Okay, digging deeper.
Our intel today comes from that sort of wild frontier of online discussion, a place where observations and, well, firsthand whispers seem to collide.
Interesting, man.
What's been particularly eye-opening, I think, is this sudden chorus of legal commentators rushing out to explain why they do what they do. Defensive posts, videos.
Right. It's that very defensiveness that immediately sparks curiosity, wouldn't you agree? When you see multiple people seemingly out of the blue going out of their way to say, oh, this isn't about money, or my day job pays fine, or it's just a passion project.
Oh, that makes you think.
It really begs the question, why the need for such a strong assertion right now?
Exactly.
And look, while those motivations might be true for some creators, absolutely. The information we've been looking at suggests a much more complex and maybe incentivized landscape.
Yeah, intricate is a good word for it. Think about it from, the listener's perspective. You see someone spending hours dissecting complex legal stuff online.
The time commitment is huge.
The research alone must be significant. Never mind recording, editing, engaging with comments. It's clearly not just a casual hobby for many of them.
No, definitely not.
So where could the resources, the time for that kind of dedication come from?
One obvious path, and it's been talked about a lot, is the direct income from platforms like YouTube or TikTok.
Right, the ad revenue.
Yeah, those ads you see, maybe subtle product mentions slipped in, that kind of thing.
So the digital soapbox actually becomes a potential paycheck, turning commentary into a sort of cottage industry.
That's right. And while maybe the income per view isn't massive, it can add up, especially for creators with big, engaged followings who are posting constantly.
Sure, volume matters.
But the information we've examined also points towards something else, something that brings in a whole different ethical dimension.
Okay, let's get into that.
It's the possibility that these legal commentators might be getting paid directly or indirectly by parties involved in the cases, or their lawyers or PR firms.
Whoa. Okay, that's where things get really interesting. And potentially raises some serious eyebrows for people listening.
Definitely.
The details coming out suggest these payments might not just be straight cash. We could be talking gift cards, maybe covering expenses.
Podcasting gear, maybe.
Even that, yeah. Or paying for YouTube ads to boost their videos, things to increase their reach.
Subtle support.
And what's really noteworthy is the timing that keeps surfacing. Seems like late 2024, early 2025. That period saw a real uptick in these kinds of offers being floated around.
A specific window.
This idea of hidden payments just throws a massive wrench into the whole credibility thing, doesn't it? Makes it less about pure insight, potentially more about who's bankrolling the commentary.
Precisely. And for legal professionals, this is particularly tricky territory.
How so?
Well, lawyers operate under a strict code of professional conduct. Rules about impartiality, avoiding conflicts of interest, they're fundamental.
Okay.
Accepting undisclosed payments to comment on a case, that could breach not just the platform's terms of service, but also those core ethical rules governing their profession.
So serious stuff.
Very serious. We're talking potential disciplinary action, suspension, maybe even losing their license to practice law. It fundamentally compromises their analysis if there's money tied to pushing a certain angle.
It completely undermines the trust, that you as a viewer or listener place in what they're saying. It just evaporates. Now, okay, let's pivot slightly. There's another angle, a more maybe conventional one. Just using online content as marketing.
Ah, yes, for their own practice.
Right. Think about it. An entertainment lawyer commenting on a huge celebrity case. That's basically a giant billboard showcasing their expertise.
Direct line to potential clients.
So you can see how building that visible online profile as a commentator could be a totally legit way to attract clients, not just entertainment law, maybe trusts, family law, employment stuff.
Absolutely. For many lawyers, creating content online under their real name is a standard and, frankly, ethical way to build their professional reputation.
Makes sense.
They share insights, demonstrate they know their stuff, and connect with people who might actually need legal help down the road. The logic's sound. It's a key reason many lawyers get into online commentary.
It does seem, though, like this whole landscape just exploded around one particular trial, didn't it?
Oh, definitely.
The info suggests a real turning point, like a gold rush moment almost.
That's a good way to put it.
It sounds like that specific case really, like turbocharged this whole genre of content, turned it into something potentially very lucrative, maybe even a full-time job for some, or a serious side hustle.
That trial was undeniably a major catalyst. The public fascination was just immense. Combined with the drama unfolding in real time, It created the perfect storm for legal commentary to just boom online.
Yep.
And the sheer amount of content that came out of it, plus the earnings some creators reportedly pulled in. I mean, we saw figures mention substantial sums just from things like super chats.
Wow.
It really highlights the serious financial potential that suddenly seemed possible in this niche.
Which brings us to a really crucial question, one that you listening at home should probably be asking. What standards should we expect?
Standards of accuracy.
Accountability.
Exactly. From people presenting themselves as legal experts online. Shouldn't they be held, I don't know, to a higher bar than just some random person sharing opinions?
You think so? The concern, as we've seen and pointed out, is that the drive for popularity, more views, more subscribers, going viral, might start to overshadow the commitment to providing factual, ethically sound information.
That's a critical point for anyone consuming this content to consider. That perception of expertise carries a lot of weight.
For sure.
When a lawyer offers what they call expert analysis, people naturally see it as more authoritative than, say, my opinion or yours if you're not a lawyer.
Right.
The worry highlighted in the material we looked at is that some commentators might be chasing engagement, chasing that viral moment, more than ensuring their analysis is accurate and gives the full picture, the full context.
And this idea of getting free insight, it suddenly feels a lot more complicated, doesn't it, when you realize these creators might be profiting in all sorts of ways.
Even indirectly.
Yeah, even if it's just visibility that boosts their law practice or opens doors to other opportunities. The expectation, it seems pretty reasonable, is that if you're holding yourself out as a legal authority, your commentary should be grounded in legal principles, evidence, context, and basic ethics.
Precisely. And the information we've been looking at really emphasizes the significant influence these commentators can wield, shaping public opinion on active legal cases.
A huge influence.
And that power becomes particularly concerning if the analysis isn't objective, or if it's driven by factors other than just wanting to inform people accurately.
There's a real danger there.
Yeah, if a confident delivery or a fancy title makes viewers just accept commentary as undeniable fact. So for you, the listener, it's crucial to try and distinguish between general opinion and what's being framed as expert analysis. That label implies weight, and it should come with responsibility.
It really boils down to that distinction, right?
Yeah.
If someone with a law degree weighs in, it just naturally lands differently in your mind than a random comment.
Absolutely.
And that influence, as we're seeing, can powerfully shape how the public understands these often really complex legal situations.
Which raises a fundamental question for you, the listener. Can these channels, these legal commentators, truly balance chasing a huge audience with the responsibility that comes with talking about sensitive legal stuff?
Is it possible to be both super popular online and a rigorously ethical legal voice? It feels like a tough tightrope to walk.
It does. The information we reviewed also mentioned some skepticism about directly paying for engagement on certain platforms.
Like paying for posts specifically.
Yeah, compared to maybe platforms with more visible individual influencers. The question came up whether maybe coordinated groups or even automated accounts like bot farms could be used to amplify specific views in online discussions.
Manufactured consensus, something to keep an eye out for as you're scrolling.
Definitely.
Now, what's particularly revealing, I think, are some of the first-hand accounts that have emerged.
Oh, tell me more.
The info we looked at includes mentions of people getting offers, sometimes seemingly small things like Amazon or Nordstrom gift cards.
Gift cards. For what?
To basically monitor, or scope, as it was put, online discussions related to legal commentary and potentially influence them.
Wow. So like paid observation with a side of potential manipulation.
Kind of seems that way.
Yeah.
And this activity apparently coincided with a noticeable increase in people being approached about launching podcasts or other content platforms.
Interesting timing again.
It really makes you wonder about the true motives behind some of this online back and forth, doesn't it?
These reported offers, they give a fascinating peek behind the curtain, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
The fact that people were approached, even with relatively small incentives like gift cards, to watch discussions and maybe steer perception, it suggests a deliberate strategy to shape the narrative.
Right, not just random chatter.
And the timing, lining up with more interest in content creation ventures, just further hints at those underlying financial angles. So for you listening, it's a reminder, what you see online isn't always as organic as it looks.
It sounds like these approaches, they might start out flattering. Oh, we love your voice, your research is great.
Buttering them up.
Yeah. But then quickly pivot to the real ask, pushing specific legal points or backing a certain view in exchange for compensation.
The quid pro quo.
And apparently, this wasn't just one person's experience. Others in similar online communities reported getting similar offers around the same time.
A pattern.
That pattern across different people, different online spaces. It really suggests a coordinated effort to sway the conversation. These offers, even if they're just $25, $50 gift cards, there's still a tangible incentive. They could potentially bias someone's commentary.
Absolutely. And when you start thinking about the potential financial scale involved, it becomes even more important for people to understand.
How so?
Well, okay, maybe $25 or $50 for one interaction seems small, but multiply that. What if someone's doing that multiple times a day?
Right, it adds up.
Or consider creators doing long-form podcasts, live streams. The potential earnings there could be hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars per piece of content, depending on their reach and the deal.
Much bigger numbers.
Exactly. We saw those comparisons drawn to the kind of money some creators reportedly made during that big trial. Like one example was $240,000 in super chats over just a couple of months.
It's astounding.
That contrast, small payments for maybe steering forum chat versus huge potential earnings for video creators, it just underscores the different levels of influence and monetization possible here.
And you start to look at the sheer prevalence of certain voices.
Yeah.
The constant cross-posting of similar takes across multiple online communities.
Seeing the same arguments pop up everywhere.
Yeah. It starts to look less like just organic agreement and maybe more like a coordinated push, possibly driven by that desire to amplify certain narratives and, as the info suggests, maybe even those financial incentives tied to engagement everywhere.
It makes you question the authenticity.
Totally. So for you, the listener, it raises flags about how genuine some online discussions are when you see the same users, the same talking points over and over across different sites.
That interconnectedness of online communities and the persistence of certain voices, it definitely warrants a closer look.
Yeah.
And the possibility of money driving some of that cross-posting just adds another complex layer. It really pushes you as a consumer of this information to be more discerning, to think about the why behind what you're reading or hearing.
It really does feel like we're wading through a bit of a Wild West situation with online content creation right now.
How do you mean?
Well, you have established ethical duties for professionals, lawyers, therapists, etc. But those duties can sometimes clash pretty hard with the lure of online fame, engagement.
And the kind of sensational stuff, what got called dirty tea, that often gets the most clicks.
Exactly. That tension between professional ethics and the siren song of online popularity, maybe financial rewards. It's a key challenge in this whole space.
It really is.
And for you listening, it just highlights why you need to be aware of these competing forces when you're evaluating legal commentary online.
And it's getting harder, isn't it? Trying to tell the difference between someone's genuine, deeply held belief and content that might be financially motivated, or even potentially generated by AI or bots.
Especially in really polarized, heated discussions, it's tough.
Yeah, the lines get so blurry. It becomes harder for you, the listener, to figure out where authentic opinion stops and maybe an incentivized narrative starts.
The anonymity, the ease of creating multiple profiles, it just complicates things further. Makes it hard to separate real voices from other agendas.
Financial or automated, yeah. It erodes trust, makes it harder to get a clear understanding.
What's also pretty scary, thinking bigger picture, is this point about online platforms being used as training data for AI.
Ah, yes, the large language models.
Right, so if inaccurate or biased legal information gets huge traction online, spreads everywhere, it could potentially get baked into AI systems as truth.
And then amplified by AI-generated content down the line.
Yeah, which has massive implications for the reliability of information you find online, not just from humans anymore.
That's a critical point. Huge potential consequences for you, for everyone relying on online info. The fact that these discussions feed AI training sets means bad info, if it goes viral, could get accidentally validated and spread even further by algorithms.
Polluting the whole information ecosystem.
Pretty much.
Which naturally leads to the concern that you should really be aware of.
Right.
A lot of the legal info you find online, unless it's from very specific, vetted, professional sources,
Yeah.
it might just be plain wrong.
Inaccurate.
And the idea of that unreliable stuff training AI models, it's genuinely worrying. Just because info is available online doesn't mean it's accurate, especially in complex fields like law.
Right. Lack of fact-checking, potential for bias. It's a recipe for misinformation spreading, and as we said, maybe influencing AI.
And it seems there's a healthy dose of skepticism needed around people who pop up online presenting themselves as legal experts. You know, maybe with a flair signed by a mod or just self-proclaimed.
The internet lawyer phenomenon.
The worry is, are people taking their posts as actual authoritative legal advice? Or again, is it getting scraped into AI training data as if it's legit legal analysis?
So for you listening, it's another reminder. Approach those online claims of expertise with a really critical eye. Question credentials, look for corroboration.
Finally, the information we looked at also touched on how the platforms themselves, the way they're built, can be used to shape opinions.
Like upvoting and downvoting.
Exactly. Those features, meant to surface popular stuff, can potentially be gamed, manipulated to boost certain views and bury others.
Right. Understanding those platform mechanics is also crucial for you to get a clearer picture of the real conversation happening.
Or not happening, as the case may be.
The very design of these platforms, how content gets promoted or demoted, it's vulnerable. Being aware of that helps you better judge the true range of opinions, the actual sentiment.
So, okay, let's try and bring it all together for you listening. It seems the why behind online legal commentary is way more complex than just sharing knowledge.
Definitely not that simple.
We're potentially looking at direct income, strategic marketing for law practices, and this murkier area of undisclosed payments.
All raising serious ethical flags.
Right, about the accuracy, the influence of all this easily accessible content. So for you, the listener, trying to find clarity in these complex situations, this deep dive hopefully peels back a hidden layer.
It shows it's not just about legal cases themselves, it's also about the motivations, the incentives driving the people doing the analyzing.
Absolutely. And that leaves you with a really critical thought to chew on. In this age, absolutely saturated with online commentary, how do you, as an individual, figure out what's genuinely informed analysis versus what might be driven by something else.
Hidden agendas, financial ties.
Yeah. And what are the bigger consequences of all this for how we, as a public, understand legal matters?
It really just hammers home the need for critical thinking, for carefully evaluating the information you come across online, especially with complex topics like law.
Don't just passively consume.
Exactly. Don't just accept everything at face value. Check the source, look for actual evidence, and always ask yourself, what might be the unseen motivations here? It's about cultivating, I guess, an informed skepticism in a very, very noisy digital world.